Rooms. Sand-covered floors. No furniture. No metal. No explanation for the crash I'd heard. That's when I noticed it. The sand. Both the ground floor and the second floor were completely covered in sand. Thick, undisturbed, like the desert had slowly claimed the building from the inside. There were no footprints. No drag marks. Nothing that explained the metal sound. A chill ran down my spine. I suddenly felt very, very alone. I didn't investigate further. I turned and hurried down the stairs, my composure completely gone. I retraced my steps back to the apartment, climbed through the broken window, and ran. I didn't stop running until I reached my house. Inside, I drank water like I crossed the desert myself. My hands were shaking. My heart wouldn't slow down. Eventually, I sat on my bed and picked up my phone. I needed reassurance. I needed to hear my own voice to prove that nothing had happened. I played the video. My commentary was gone. The audio was distorted, warped, broken. My voice, every word I'd spoken, was missing. All that remained was static, low hums, and silence where my voice should have been. I didn't sleep that night. Days later, I told my friends. They called me stupid, reckless, said I was lucky nothing happened. I kept the video anyway. I didn't delete it. I couldn't. Months passed. In December, I was scrolling through my gallery when I saw the video again. My stomach tightened. Against my better judgment, I played it. I fast-forwarded to the moment I remembered, the metal crash. This time, the sound was there. Clear, sharp, unmistakable. I felt goosebumps crawl across my arms. I locked my phone and put it down like it had burned me. I promised myself something that night. I would never go near that building again. And I haven't. Let me start by saying this clearly, because it matters more than anything else in this story. Before that night, I did not believe in the paranormal. Not ghosts, not demons, not possessions, attachments, or anything that goes bump in the night. I believed in fear. Sure, some places don't want witnesses. They don't scream, they don't chase, and they don't reveal themselves all at once. They wait patiently for curiosity, for loneliness, for someone reckless enough to walk inside alone. And when they finally let you hear them, they make sure the proof only appears when it's too late to forget. I live in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and up until that night, I was convinced that fear was something you could control if you stayed logical. I was 18 years old, a college student, old enough to believe I understood the difference between imagination and reality. Ghost stories were entertainment to me, something you listened to late at night for cheap thrills, not something that reached out and touched your life. That Tuesday night started like any other restless night. I was lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling, my phone face down beside me. The room was dark except for the faint glow of streetlights leaking through the curtains. I checked the time for what felt like the 100th time. Midnight, then 1, then 2 in the morning. My mind wouldn't shut off. Thoughts circled endlessly. College stress, family expectations, the suffocating feeling of routine. Eventually, I sat up, swung my legs over the edge of the bed, and decided to go for a walk. I told myself it was just to clear my head. Nothing more. The streets were quiet in that specific way they only are after midnight. No cars, no voices, just the distant hum of electricity and the occasional barking dog far away. The air was warm, heavy, clinging to my skin, the kind of heat that never truly disappears in August. As I walked, something crept into my thoughts, something I'd heard whispered about since I was younger. There was an abandoned building in our neighborhood. Everyone knew about it. Broken windows, rusted metal doors, a giant "No Entry" warning painted in red, faded and cracked like dry blood. People said it was haunted. Some said it used to be apartments. Others claimed workers died during construction. No one had a clear story, just enough fragments to make it unsettling. I'd always wanted to see what was inside. That night, curiosity felt stronger than fear. When the building came into view, my steps slowed. It looked worse up close than it ever had from a distance. The windows were shattered like blackened eyes, jagged glass clinging to the frames. The main entrance was blocked by a massive metal door, dented and scarred, the warning painted across it uneven and aggressive. No entry. I stood there for a moment, my heart beating faster, my mind warning me to leave. But then I laughed quietly to myself. I was 18, an adult. Paranormal stories weren't real, right? I noticed a broken window on the side of the building, low enough to climb through. Without giving myself time to rethink it, I slipped my phone from my pocket, turned on the flashlight, and hit record. I wanted proof, not of ghosts, but of bravery. Something to show my friends later, something to laugh about. The moment I climbed inside, the temperature felt wrong. Not cold exactly, just different. Stale, like air that hadn't moved in years. The smell hit me next. Dust, old concrete, something faintly metallic. My phone's flashlight cut through the darkness in a narrow beam, revealing cracked walls and debris scattered across the floor. I realized I was inside a small room. An apartment, maybe. I stepped through the doorway into a hallway, my footsteps echoing louder than they should have. The sound bounced back at me, distorted, as if the building itself was listening. I started doing commentary, trying to sound confident, talking about the walls, the darkness, joking about haunted buildings. The sound of my own voice helped keep my nerves in check. Eventually, I reached the main hall. It was massive, far bigger than I expected. The elevator stood dead on the left side, doors slightly open, cables visible inside like exposed veins. Beside it was a narrow passageway leading to a tiny room tucked beneath the staircase. Something about that passage made my skin crawl. Still recording, I walked toward it. My flashlight shook slightly now, my breathing louder in my ears. When I got close, I heard it. A clicking sound. It came from the door of that small room. I froze. The sound was deliberate, rhythmic, like someone tapping their tongue against their teeth. My brain screamed danger, and for a split second, I couldn't move at all. Then instinct took over. I backed away slowly, never turning my back, still recording, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. I reached the center of the hall again. That's when I heard it. A loud metallic crash. It echoed through the building, violent and unmistakable, metal slamming against concrete. My entire body jolted. I nearly dropped my phone. Every survival instinct I had told me to run, to get out, to never look back. But something else whispered in my head. Find out what it was. I hate admitting that. I hate knowing that curiosity almost got me killed, or worse. I started climbing the stairs. Each step creaked softly beneath my weight. The higher I went, the colder it became. That's what terrified me the most. It was August. Outside, the heat was unbearable. Inside that building, with every step upward, the air grew colder, heavier, like I was walking deeper underground instead of higher. I reached the first floor. 4 apartments. All dark, all silent. I checked them one by one. Empty, but fear had explanations. Sounds had sources. Shadows had causes. And people who claimed otherwise were either exaggerating, mistaken, or desperate to feel special. That confidence is the first thing that night took from me. It happened during a time when I was still trying to fit in. I had recently started hanging out with a new group of friends. I won't mention names, partly out of respect, and partly because I don't want this story traced back to anyone involved. All you need to know is that I was the new guy, the one still being tested, still proving I belonged. One night, they invited me out late. No plans, just hanging out and talking. That was normal. What wasn't normal was where we went. An old trailer. It sat on a stretch of land that felt wrong even before you knew its reputation. The paint was peeling, the windows were grimy, and the yard was littered with trash and dead weeds. The place looked abandoned, but it wasn't. Someone technically owned it, though no one stayed there long. According to my friends and several people who had lived there before, the trailer was haunted. Not ghost footsteps, haunted. They said it was demonic. They told me about shadows moving against the walls. Voices calling names when no one was there. Doors opening and closing on their own. They told me people had woken up with scratches, bruises, and marks they couldn't explain. I laughed. I made jokes. I said every creepy place gets a reputation eventually. Old buildings settle. Animals get inside. People scare themselves. That's when they told me about the initiation. Apparently, every new person who joined their late-night hangouts had to do it. It wasn't violent. It wasn't dangerous. Just scary, if you believed in that sort of thing. All I had to do was walk into the back room of the trailer alone. That was it. It was a completely normal evening. That's the part that still bothers me the most. Nothing bad had happened that day. No arguments, no stress, no strange feelings hanging in the air. It was the kind of night you don't remember for any particular reason, until it becomes the one you can never forget. It was around 10 o'clock when my best friend and I decided to go for a walk. We live in a small village, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where the streets go quiet early, and where the darkness feels heavier because there are fewer lights to fight it back. At that hour, most people were already inside. Curtains drawn, doors locked, the village settling into sleep. The sky was moonless, completely black, and the streetlights were weak and yellow, spaced far enough apart that shadows pooled between them. We walked slowly, talking about nothing important, school, random gossip, plans that would probably never happen. Just two friends killing time. About 15 minutes into our walk, we decided to head back home. To do that, we had to go up a hill that led toward the center of the village. At the top of that hill was our small town area, one grocery store, a bar, and a few scattered buildings that shut down long before nightfall. As we reached the top, my friend suddenly stopped. "Do you see that?" she asked. At first, I didn't. Then my eyes adjusted. Down the street, near the edge of the dim light, there was a figure. It was tall, too tall. At first glance, it looked like a woman wearing a long white sheet or robe. The fabric hung loosely, dragging close to the ground. The strangest part was the way it moved, slowly swaying side to side, almost wobbling like it was drunk, injured, or struggling to stay upright. We stood there, frozen. "Is that a person?" I whispered. Neither of us answered. The figure was far enough away that details were hard to make out, but close enough that we could tell something was wrong. Its movements weren't natural. Each step looked deliberate, but unstable, like it was being pulled forward rather than choosing to walk. The streetlights didn't help much. The light barely touched the figure, casting long shadows that stretched toward us. The face, or what should have been a face, was impossible to see. My friend pulled out her phone. "Let's record it," she said quietly. I didn't argue. Something in my gut told me this wasn't just someone messing around, but another part of me needed proof, something solid to look back on later and explain this away. She started recording. As we watched through the screen, the figure kept moving. Slowly, painfully slowly. That's when we realized something that made my stomach drop. It was coming toward us. Not quickly, not aggressively, just steadily. We stood there for maybe 30 seconds, watching it get closer. The distance closed so slowly that it almost felt unreal, like time itself had stretched thin. I kept expecting it to stop, to turn, to reveal itself as some drunk person or prank. It didn't. The closer it got, the more details vanished instead of appearing. The fabric looked old, dirty in places, but there were no visible arms swinging at its sides. The neck looked wrong. It seemed thinner than it should have been, almost constricted, like something was tied around it. "Do you see its face?" I asked. My friend shook her head. "I don't think it has one." That's when panic finally kicked in. We didn't scream. We didn't hesitate. We ran. We turned and sprinted back down the hill, our footsteps echoing too loudly in the quiet village. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was in my throat. I didn't look back. I was terrified that if I did, it would be closer than it should be. We cut through side streets, taking a longer route home, hoping to avoid crossing paths with it again. The entire time, I expected to hear footsteps behind us, slow, dragging steps that never changed pace. But there was nothing. When we finally slowed down, we were breathless, shaking, and terrified. We laughed nervously, the way people do when adrenaline is wearing off but fear hasn't left yet. "It's probably just someone messing around," I said, though I didn't believe it. "Yeah," my friend replied, not convincing herself either. We calculated the path we'd taken and realized something unsettling. If the figure kept moving in the direction it was headed, and we took the route we normally would have, we should have run into it again at one of the intersections. We didn't. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that slow, swaying movement. The way it seemed both fragile and threatening at the same time. The next day, I told another friend about what happened. She went quiet almost immediately. She told me that she and her sister had seen something similar the same night, near the bar on the street where we thought we'd run into it again. She described it the same way we had, tall covered, faceless, moving unnaturally slowly. She said it scared her so badly she sped away without looking back. The figure was slower than us, much slower, and yet, somehow, we never crossed paths again. We still live in the same village. We still walk those streets, but never that late anymore, and never up that hill together. Sometimes, when the streetlights flicker and the shadows stretch too long, I find myself scanning the distance, half expecting to see fabric swaying in the dark. We never saw her again, and honestly, I'm not sure which possibility scares me more, that she's gone, or that she's still walking, just slowly enough that we haven't noticed yet.